And thank you, Charles, for your time today. Um,
Absolutely.
I am a huge fan of you and your business and products. But before we dig into rebranding, there are probably people who don't know what you do. So can you tell people what Lovejoy's is and what makes it different?
Well, I'm Charles, founder of Lovejoy's Bloody Mary Mix. We are a craft brunch beverage maker. So we do Bloody Mary mixes. We have a hot sauce. We do rim seasoning. We're hopefully coming out soon with a line of mimosa mixers and a sangria mixer to round out that brunch market. I started this in 2017. I've been a bartender around the Twin Cities for about 30 years. Really no retail background at all. So we just kind of flying by the seat of our pants and building this small company. We've gotten a lot of help from family and friends. And so now we're almost in our eighth year and we're still around. So
Awesome. And tell a little bit more. I think the story behind the product and behind the original Bloody Mary mix is really interesting. So, how did you come up with that, and why is it unique?
sure. So like I said, I've been a bartender for almost, well, 30 years before I stopped doing to do this. And as such, I was working at a place, so got pretty popular for brunch. It's called the Happy Gnome back there. And while I was working there, City Pages used to always do best of. So they did a best Bloody Mary mix or best Bloody Mary in the Twin Cities. And I saw that and I was like, oh, I gotta go. I thought I was making a pretty good one where we're at. And I was like, I'm gonna go check this one out and see what all the hype is about. Got there and had it. It was not the best thing I'd ever tasted. And I was like, wow, this is pretty just okay. And I got my wheels turned and I went back to the place I was working at and I had a free hand as the brunch guy. I was the brunch guy and started tweaking the recipes I was working with and found that people were starting to enjoy them. And we built up some business that way. I gained some more popularity, got some more notoriety. But the keynote of that whole thing was that I was able to tweak our recipe for the Bloody Mary mixes that I was making without anybody knowing I was doing it. They just assumed it was the restaurant doing it or whoever we were getting it from. So I would ask people and I get some candid responses about what they liked and what they didn't like in Bloody Mary mixes. So that really helped me find a balance of flavors. Taking out a little bit of horseradish. I got the common ones that it tasted like chili, so we didn't want that. So I was able to tweak those things, and over the months and years of just tweaking the recipes, gained got even more popular. And then one day, my sister Suzanne, who was a force of nature and a serial entrepreneur, came in and saw the line out the door and saw people were enjoying the bloodies. And it's like, hey, we should put this in a bottle, maybe. It's like it was not anything I was interested in doing. I'd been making it at that point for a couple years, and I was like, it's fine how it is. I'm happy where I'm at. We're doing good business, and I was making decent money. But then she put the point to me. It's like my mother at the same time, my mother was a saint, and at the same time, she was running a nonprofit for homeless families in St. Paul. And she was struggling with donations and just getting the word out. And I was like, well, I was thinking, how can I combine what I was doing with what she was doing? And part of that answer was the Bloody Mary mixes. If we put it in a bottle, donate all profits to her charity, maybe that could be a good connection. So we did that a couple times for her galas and put it in gift baskets to auction off, and it went pretty well. So I decided, and me and my sister decided to just go down that CPG rabbit hole and find out what we needed to do to make it legal, get licensing, all that fun stuff. And during that time, we developed a couple more flavors for the restaurant. And then we went down that hole and really, it took about 2 years before we got everything done, found a commercial kitchen to make it happen, and was able to sell to a couple of restaurants right away to get a little traction, and we just pieced it together from there.
I had first tried your mix at Hope Breakfast Bar,
Oh, for sure.
and I'd had a couple bloodies, but it was never really my favorite kind of beverage. And I remember having it and being like, wow, this is actually spicy and like, flavorful, and there's even a little bit of texture to it compared to what I've
Right.
been used to, and with the rim seasoning. So I feel like that uniqueness really came through from even just a couple experiences for me. Do you find that's the case with a lot of people when they first try your products?
Yeah, absolutely. I get that a lot that people don't like Bloody Marys, and then they try ours, and they're like, "Oh, this is I could drink this." I'll take that as a win. I think part of the process of figuring out what people are enjoying plays into those flavors and those unique different textures and flavors in the mix. And part of it was me coming from a restaurant and making it that way instead of going directly to the retail route and trying to copy whatever somebody else was doing was the ability, and I gotta give shouts out to the chef at the time, was Scott Brink and his whole crew in the kitchen for giving me access to the kitchen. So I was able to use a lot of fresh vegetables and fresh ingredients, and while I was making this mix, particularly the original during the time we were R&D in it with people at the bar. So I was able to put in those fresh ingredients that if we would have started just looking at a retail, they would have said I was crazy. Co-packers still say I'm crazy. Like they say this, but my almost to a T, every co-packer that I've gone to, every manufacturer I've gone to, has been like, this is the biggest ingredient deck that we've ever seen for a Bloody Mary. Like, you're nuts. Like this is never gonna work. And we're still here, and people tend to enjoy it. And I think it's definitely unique as far as texture and flavors go, but we still hit those familiar notes. So there's celery salts, or your horseradishes, a little bit of heat. So yeah, it's
Absolutely.
definitely a labor of love and sticking to your guns as much as you can in this industry.
Yeah, the robustness is what I think really stuck
Mm.
out for me. And when I was introduced to you through Sam West, who deserves a shout out.
Yes,
Um,
of course.
and Sam, I mean, you've been working with Sam already, but I had actually heard of you prior to that, even prior to trying it at Hope Breakfast Bar. One of my other designer friends, Nick Zidane, had mentioned your product, and I remember him even saying, like, "It's really great, but I think the brand could use a little love." And then Sam
Yes.
knew you, and I was like, "I've heard of this brand," and by no means was it like the design was fine, but I think just to like level it up and to make it align with what the product is, that was an exciting opportunity. I remember with Sam telling me about you, and like, he knows you, and I'm like, what? I want to work on this. So that was my experience as coming into the branding project. But what was it for you? And did you realize it was time to consider a rebrand, or how did that come about? And were there any challenges you were facing with your previous branding and design?
Yeah, no. So part of when we first started, my goal, I did some market research and I was looking at other labels, and one of my goals was to highlight the robustness and the natural flavors and the fresh ingredients and the chunks of very small chunks. So I freaking bite out
Right.
small
Right.
chunks of actual
Palatable, easy to
yeah, exactly.
swallow.
Right, right. It fits through a straw most of the time. So the original label for the original bottle was clear because I wanted to highlight those things. And that came with the challenge of what do we put around it? How does it look? Is it just super simple? One of the people I worked with, shout out to Natalie, she just graduated from design school, graphic design school. And so we worked together, and at the time, so this was probably 2015 or so. I worked at the Happy Gnome, which boasted, I don't know, we had at one point 350 different whiskeys, and that doesn't include all the other spirits that we had. So I had a lot of bottles to look at all day long. And what stood out to me at that time was the ornate, like design work around the names and things like that. That was very popular at the time. So we ripped and stole some stuff, and I think we got the original border for the bottle around the name and the title of the product from just Google Images. And Natalie was able to tweak it a little bit. So we just use that template across the different SKUs. I'm really simple, as you can see. Black and white is generally where I land. We did the Thai basil in a green, I won't call it a Kelly green, but it was a very green label. And it worked at the time. And so that was about 2015, 16, right before we launched. We figured out that label. And It worked for a while, and I think that around when we started working with Sam and Joe Alton in 2020, 2021, it was just time for something new. But I would look out on the landscape and see what I liked and whatever, and I just never saw anything that was really striking. So when I first started talking to you about this project, about changing our design, I was just going to tweak a little bit. I think we were just going to get rid of the border, keep the labels clear, and try to work within that same framework. But when I got introduced to you and I saw some of the designs and the work you had already done out there, I was just like, this is silly to rein in this talent that I have in front of me. And I remember specifically talking to Sam during one of our weekly meetings. I was in Chicago and I just pitched a wine bow at a sales meeting. And I was driving back to the hotel and I was like, you know what? Let's just F it. Let's let Liina just go crazy. I don't want to give
Yes.
her some parameters, but let's just see what she can do. And I don't want to keep the same label. And it was really just a moment. I was just like, and Sam happened to be on the phone. And I was like, let's just do it. Let's just go crazy. Let's just see what we can do, completely
Yeah.
change it. And then that's how we got to that point. It was definitely time to switch it. And so I was feeling
Yeah.
good about the sales meeting and being in Chicago and seeing all the brands that they had represented already, and just knowing that we could elevate our brand and speak to our customer base through our labels and through our bottling. So
Right.
yeah, that's how that got started. And you did a fantastic job.
Well, I love that. And thanks for your
Yeah.
kind words. If you think back to that process, so once we started, there was a lot to it. I know we initially met and went over your likes and dislikes and your brand story and a lot of brand work initially, but then getting into the visual design process. Which part of the process sticks out to you, or did you have a favorite part, or anything that surprised you about the process?
I think just determining what I actually saw for the brand was a process. I think that, like I said, we went from going from just tweaking the current design. I was pretty adamant about doing just tweaking it for a month or so when we first started. And then once we got rolling on like trying to determine where we wanted to go with it, it was pretty, you made it very, very easy. We scoured the Etsy and the Pinterest, and I think where we ended up kind of all over the place. I know that we were looking at bubble letters and like things like that, and I think you made the process very easy, and you helped to narrow down. You and Sam helped narrow down, and my sister Suzanne helped a lot too. But once we just determined fonts and all that, I think it was so easy. And I think we came back with maybe three different design choices, and we went with the one. And I don't think I don't regret any of it. I think it just went really smooth after that, and you
Yeah.
made it super easy.
Well, that's good to hear. I think there
Mhm.
were three directions
Right.
and definitely different feels. So I'll probably
Hmm.
echo those too. But that's by design too, as far as presenting a brand, because it is, I always tell my clients it's kind of like if you're a musician like tuning an instrument. Like if you get it off a little bit, you can hear it and then you can wind it back in. So you're fine tuning. This is too far, this is too safe, and this one kind of feels right. Usually that's how it goes. Or if there's two, it helps people find the right place. And interestingly, I think because you said you like to wear simple colors, and a lot of business owners that solopreneurs, they want their brand to reflect their own personal style. And I think we found a balance with that because it's your brand, but it's also representing a product and it's a brand on its own. It has its own kind of life. So I feel good about where we were able to get it to, where there's still a lot of black and white, but then a lot of color. So I
Yeah.
think that color is what I get excited about too, and the illustrations that really tell the story of all those different ingredients that you're using.
I think that was the key. Was not, like I said, I don't have a strong marketing or retail background. So the key to me was being able to tell our story through your designs and tell people what's in the bottle in an artistic way. And I think one of the few things that I wanted on the bottle was the call outs. If we were going to have a clear label, it had to be a call out of the interesting ingredients at least. And then he went to town on that, and that's where the magic happened. So
Let's see. If you were to describe just in personality words how the new brand feels different
mm,
from the old brand, how would you describe that?
the new brand feels appropriate for the time, and it's got a classic look, but it's still, I think it represents where we want to be. We want to be a more of a luxury brand, more of a high-end brand. The previous designs were very basic and served that purpose for a while, but it was very, I think, farmers markety, and there's just nothing wrong with that. It just wasn't where we were going, especially when we're trying to break into retail and look differentiate ourselves on the shelf. The previous designs were a little bit too basic, and these ones are they pop. They really do. They really tell a story. They feel and they look more on target as to where we wanted to our brand to land on the shelf. And in no small part, and I think all of in all big part is why we were selected as one of Oprah's favorite things this year was through the look of our brand. I think that it really set us apart. I think that that's all the thing to do with the brand redesign and you and all the things you did.
I wanted to bring that up and just officially say on this recording, congratulations on
Oh, thank you,
Oprah's
thank you,
favorite
thank you.
things. I remember hearing word of it before it was officially announced, and I was just so
Mhm.
excited for you guys to be able to make that announcement.
Yeah.
Tell a little bit more about how that went. How was the whole process of being on
Well,
Oprah's?
Oprah's list. It was terrific and terrifying and all those fun things. So they found us. I just want to say they found us online. So whatever we were doing online worked. And like I said, again, no small part to due to the package redesign. They emailed. They asked if we want to submit our brand for their jury or their panel. We got accepted, and they don't give you a lot of information about how sales might end up or where you might end up because I guess they don't really know. And plus, I'm sure legally they don't want to get your hopes up, but they told me a little bit more about the
Yeah.
impact.
Was it
And
insane?
yeah, it was. We were up almost 200% from last year for that fourth quarter sales.
Wow.
And then it gave us a lot of exposure that I wasn't expecting. For instance, local media, which is great. We're on three different local media or news shows, and then halfway through the promotion for Oprah, I get an email from ABC Nightly News, and they want to do a feature about Oprah's favorite things and the small makers on there. So we had like 4 days to put together like a little video for them, and once that aired, things went pretty crazy. Oprah was great, and being in had to submit or we had to go up on Amazon, so we had to be able to be bought on Amazon through this Oprah because it's Oprah and Amazon
Right.
collaboration. So that was another process of doing that and getting Amazon a bunch of inventory before the launch, and we only had a month and a half to do that. And if you were done with Amazon, when you're trying to send them things, it's not exactly that fast. So it was a stressful time, but well worth it. So, anyways, halfway through this, we air on ABC, and then things go to the next level. And right after airing, I checked the traffic on our website, and there was 15,000 people visiting my site at that minute.
Wow.
I quickly turned off my phone and oh no, like I don't have 15,000 of anything. So it was incredible, and we're still feeling some of the residuals from that. So
Oh, that's amazing. I'm glad that it was
yeah.
so successful and what an exciting thing. It feels like it's just the beginning too, because you're skyrocketing you to the top. And
Let's hope so. And the day to day is I'm solopreneur and hard to be. I think you understand some days it feels like that, and then most days it feels like quite the opposite. Um,
absolutely.
so we're just trying to keep it level and grow. And
What advice would you give anyone, a small business owner who might be considering a rebrand?
it's a great question. Study your market, know who you are trying to connect with. Do your best to, I wouldn't say take yourself out of it, but look at it from your consumer's point of view. Yes, the brand represents yourself, but look at what you like on the shelf. What draws your eye, and what would you look for in your category if you're shopping through Kowalski's or wherever? And there's 1,000 things on the shelf. What would stand out to you? And I think that was the hardest part of that journey was trying to figure out what catches my eye as far as packaging goes, because it's very subtle and it's very personal. So do your best to take yourself out of the situation and then look at it from a consumer's eyes. Wouldn't spend the money if you can to hire somebody that's skilled and has some experience with it, because it'll help you immensely and it'll save you so much trouble. I think right before we connected with you, we did a couple of online things where you give them $150 and they give you 25 different versions of whatever all these makers making it. I forget what that was called, but it didn't help at all. And I think it made it a little bit worse as far as direction goes. I think it's key to connect with somebody who has good skills and is a good listener and is patient. So that's what I would look for. And I highly suggest if you have to put that in your budget. And if it's not in your budget and you don't have that money or that time, or to wait for it then, because it'll be worth it in the end and you'll save a lot of money.
Right. That's great advice. And some people, a lot of businesses need to start up like you did, where they just make something, they get a label together somehow, and then they rebrand and do it right. And that's where I've been finding is a sweet spot for me in working with small businesses that they know themselves at that point. They're kind of ready for that next step. They're ready to level up and they've been doing well usually, so they have a bit more capital to put toward it. And they
Right.
understand the need for it as well,
Mm-hmm.
like
And the
you have
value,
already
yeah.
demonstrated. Right. Exactly.
Value clear in professional branding, especially if you're going to try to compete in the retail realm. It's very important.
Especially on like right on the shelf. Not every product is a shelf product, but it's such a good way to even think about any brand. Comparing side by side, how are you
Mm-hmm.
doing? Are you standing out? Are you different enough? And are you
Yeah.
drawing the right people to pull that bottle off the shelf? So,
And absolutely. And just like a lot of the small makers that, like myself, we are coming onto the scene at a higher price point. And we need to convey that a lot of things. You convey that it's handmade and convey that it's small batch. And then that's why you're paying for it. So
right,
a
value,
lot of language goes through that packaging.
definitely. Well put. All right, one more question for you. This is just
Sure.
a fun one. If you could pick one word to describe working with me, what would it be?
I would say seamless. Seamless is a good word. How about that?
Mm,
Seamless. It is a pleasure. I can't wait for you to get the next iteration of Mimosa mixers, and we
yeah,
can see what we can do with that one. And
I'm excited.
I'm very confident that I don't have to do as much work because it's like, hey, look at this, and then it'll
Absolutely.
be done. It'll be done. So
I want to take it
um,
off your plate.
consider it done.
All right. Well, one thing I noticed is you're wearing the old brand on your shirt. Is that for
I know.
historical reference?
No, because this is my uniform. I need to get a new one, but let's see. I'm not wearing it today. Usually I wear 3 t-shirts because
That was Minnesota.
that's Minnesota.
You should take off your shirt, then I'll show that clip.
Okay, here's another one.
I'll do a little sped up version.
This is the only one that I have a collar on it. That's why I wear it still. There it is.
Love it. Actually, I'll ask you one more thing. So people, if they're interested in buying your product or connecting with you, what's the best way to do that?
Lovejoysbrand.com. You can submit an inquiry there. If you're in the Twin Cities, we're in about 80 retailers around the Twin Cities. We're not hard to find. So there you go.
All right. Are you still on Amazon too?
Yeah, we are. And actually, we're going to be doubling down on the internet stuff and trying to see what's out there. We had such a good response and good experience. Well, I should say shipping glass bottles is not that great, but it's interesting. It's the Wild West for us, at least. Like, oh, we can sell online and be effective.
Yeah,
This is crazy. So yeah, we are still on Amazon. You can find us on Amazon.com. And I think it's just Lovejoy's Bloody Mary Mix on Amazon, and then our own website. So we
great.
are.
I'll post links with the video too. And I want more people to find you and try your stuff. So,
Well, that'd be awesome. I appreciate it. I appreciate everything you do for us and your patience and working with our little brand.
Oh man, it's been such a pleasure. And thank
Oh,
you.
thanks, man, for sure.